BPO3 is supported by Timber King Sawmills. For more information on my 1220 CRZ mill, or one of many Foley hydraulic options, go to timberking.com. Alright, time to beat the heat, right? 5:58 a.m. The sun hasn't quite made it over the trees. The birds are out. Man, I love it out here with the birds. It's just so peaceful. So some people have noticed that I've been putting a bird backing track on some of the clips, and it's just because there's birds here, and that's what it sounds like when you're around here. It's just it's awesome. Anywho, lots to do today. I have the bucket on the tractor. I need to take the bucket off to put the pallet forks on, so I can move those two pallets out towards the sawmill, untarp the sawmill, and then put the grapple on the tractor so I can just start loading logs with the grapple, and then stack the lumber on the pallets. What else? I gotta actually fuel up the tractor. Oh, 6 o'clock. Time to get working. All right, once again, I think I have more ambition on paper than what happens in real life. I got 2 logs completely milled up, and I should have got more, but as soon as I put the second blade on there, oh man, I nailed one of the log stops. First pass too, first or second pass, so that smoked that blade. I had to put blade number 3 on there shortly after that. I made a couple more cuts with it, and it was cutting straight, but it was a lot of resistance. So metal will dull blades fast, obviously. It's kind of like, you know, getting the first scratch on a new car. Just get it over with, right? Well, I didn't plan on hitting the metal, but experience, right? Yeah, I'm starting to get sunburnt, so my weakest link now is sun exposure, and it's starting to get to the hottest point of the day, so I'm going to switch gears and probably do some editing in front of a fan. Here in the shop, in the shade, you know, 95 degrees in the shade isn't too bad with a fan. Much better than being out there baking in the sun. We got a fair amount of 2x4s and a slab or 2 in here. I've got to move this around with the tractor before too long to make sure my tractor can actually lift this and move this into the shop where I know the forklift will be able to move it. But some good, some bad. I'm just trying to go for 2x4 material. Some of the stuff, not that great. I'm trying to stack it so bad side is up. That way when I go to use this material, I can just look at it and be like, you know what, I don't want to use that one because that's the bad side, without having to you know, flip them around or whatever. But I'm getting some beautiful lumber, some junky lumber and some beautiful lumber. This board right here, I mean, this is what Lowe's and Home Depot boards dream about. No knots in that one, and it's all quarter sawn. That's a nice piece right there. So here's my strategy that I'm following with these logs. A lot of the outside is just tore up with beetles and junk, so I'm not trying to salvage every last tiny bit of the material. So my slabs coming off on top on the perimeter are pretty big. Anyway, make my first cut, rotate that first cut up against the log stops, make my second cut, then rotate it once more. So this is the 3rd cut right here to establish the cant, essentially. But rather than turning it to make the final cut, I'm going to go ahead, or I have been, setting my blade height, whatever this is. I believe 8 and 7/8, I think. But anyway, I sized it so that way I can drop down 3.5 inches, 1.5, and then I'll have a 3.5 inch wide piece, 1.5 inches, and then a 3.5 inch wide piece. Now at this point, I'm stacking 1.5 inch material on the pallets. So because this has the center pith, I'm not going to chase. Yeah, I can get another 2x4 out of here and another 2x4 out of here. That would require another setup on the sawmill. I'm not. I've got too many logs to be doing all that. I'm just trying to run through these. So this center section, once I make these 3 cuts here, this slab on top goes to the scrap pile. And then I'll rotate this piece and this piece vertically and put this one on the pallet at 1.5 inches thick. So once I have these 2 pieces vertically, they're 3.5, and then I'll start going through 1.5 inch cuts all the way down, leaving me with a bunch of 2x4s that I can stack because they're 1.5 inches in this direction. I can stack alongside this particular slab and just keep rocking and rolling. That way I don't waste time cutting the cant and then making my other 3 cuts. It's just a lot of extra cutting and flipping. I found this sequence on a YouTube channel in South Mississippi. The name I am going blank on, but I'll put it on the screen. Anyway, less flips, a bunch of 2x4 material, 1.5 inches by 3.5 material, and that's really all I'm wanting to stockpile right now on this pallet. That pallet, once I get this high enough to where I know the tractor can still move it without it being too high, this pallet I'm going to switch over to 1x material. I think I think that's the plan. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just figuring it out as I go.
I stand by you when you're falling, when the river is calling. I said I love you forever. We can make it together. What goes up must come down. There's lots of friendly faces all around, and nothing's ever lifting me higher than a touch of your sweet desire. Well, we're all built and right. We just have to hold on through the night. As long as we are watching the fire, we'll be safe from the devil's choir. Stand by you when you're falling, when the river is calling.